Howdy everybody. So I've already been started on this a while because I had a friend stop by that was visiting with me while I was working. And like I mentioned before, I try not to just randomly put people on camera, but I'll try and see if we can put a picture in here of what this looked like when I started it. You get some idea of it there. So these holes originally are holes that have bushings that are 2 1/4 inches in diameter in them. There was 3/8 of an inch worth of wear in these holes. So I have been welding and welding. A lot of grease in there, so I started off by taking the rosebud and just heating that up, burning the grease residue out of it. And then I've been running beads and building up the lips. You can see this one, I'm about ready to flip it. I've got it at this angle because this was the bottom of the wear and I really wanted to fill that in. Now I'm about done. I got a little bit of buildup to do back on this edge yet. And then you can see I've already laid some weld around the other sides. I'm going to put one pass around what's the top of this one because there really wasn't much wear there. It pretty much wore away from it like that. But once I get where I'm happy with this, I've already got one pass in that hole. We'll flip the thing 180 degrees and then I'll do the opposite. I'll weld the bottom side of that one and bottom side of the top one with it flipped. So we're going to carry on. I'll let you guys come along for the party now. So I get it set up here on this particular angle because the worst wear is right there, so then it's the easiest welding. Lay it in there. And now this one with it flipped over, I'll go ahead and weld on around. This side has almost no wear, but I'm going to put one good pass all the way around it just so we've got something to cut back to a nice clean hole. So anyway, we're going to get at it and start doing some welding here. Well, she's a little ugly because there's a lot of passes in there, and I had a, I don't know, I don't like that spot moment there at the end, and quick threw a few more passes in because to be honest with you, I would way rather machine out too much weld than have to come back and try and add some. I'm getting sick of that. Last couple of things I've done in the boring mill, I've had spots I had to touch up, and I don't like that, so. At any rate, we are welded up there, and the next step is going to be tomorrow. We're going to let this thing cool off overnight, is stuff that thing on the boring mill and see if we can carve them back out and get some parts made and put in there. So hopefully this job gets done tomorrow, but I'll bring you guys back and let you see that process as we get to it. But I'm going to head home. I think it's about 6 o'clock. Time to call it a day. So catch you guys tomorrow. see, we had got a lot more buildup in on that side than I had around the other, but it's okay. This is where it was majorly worn. It wasn't bad around the rest, so I only put one pass in. This tool is over a 1/4 inch undersized, so we got a long ways to go yet. Now we're going to switch out and set up with some kind of boring. I haven't quite decided which boring rig, but anyway, that's what's next. So I finally found a combination that's working good. This is, I believe this is a Valinite boring head that I just dug out. Can't hog metal with it, but it's doing a pretty respectable job here. Not self-destructing on the first pass. It's reasonably easy to adjust. I think this is what we'll end up doing the rest of this job with. Tried a couple other things that just didn't fly good. Alright, now we're down to using the micro adjust function. We're cutting 3/1000ths on a side right now. Getting a little bit of borderline chattery looking stuff in the finish. Not super excited about that. It's not bad, but not great either though. Feels pretty good. So you can see a funny waver in the pattern, wave pattern in it. Right there. I think we stop there and go with it. We've got right on 5 thou press on that. I'm going to go ahead and hone it to clean it up, which will probably reduce this to 3.5 to 4 thou, and I think that's about where I want to be on that. Alright. Well, looks pretty good. Time to shift her over and cut the other side. Well, good morning everybody. My battery died as I was finishing up, but that bore's done. You can see not an awesome finish. I'm getting a little bit of chatter in it, but I've left it about 1.5 thou undersize. We're going to go ahead and hit that with a hone, but at least we got round holes that are basically on size. So at any rate, we are ready to pull this thing off here. So that's what, getting ready to unload it off this and go to the next stage of this project. we've got a big ugly crack here that we got to deal with. So I'm going to get in here, do some work trying to decide where all this crack goes. Suspect that it comes on around the corner here. Down in there it's going to be a real bear. So I have been using the living daylights out of this Vevor plasma cutter, and I gotta say I'm still just as impressed as I was when I made the initial review on the thing. Absolutely amazing. So anyway, we're going to try a little gouging with it. I've done a little bit of this, but not a lot, so this will be somewhat experimental. Alright, I think we'll do a little chipping and quite some ugly porosity from crap boiling up out of that crack. I think we're just going to go ahead and lay up a good heavy bead above the surface as we go. Alright, time for a little honing work here. Very rapidly knocks off all the high spots, you know, when you've got a kind of rough finish like that. You know, we've opened it up about 1/1000th just with doing that. Now I gotta really decide exactly what I want to shoot for. Well, right now we've got about 4 thou press, 2 thou per inch. I think that is where I want to stop. I think what we're actually going to do is we're going to go ahead and press this one in. Well, press one of them in, make sure we like the results before we go back and tackle the other one. An aluminum block. So hard to drive bronze without mushrooming out. Something a little bit smoother than what that other thing is. Dong. Alright, she's in there. Now let's hit the other one in. You got to really make sure that that leading edge is not sharp at all, or you'll just shave your bushing all the way in. So soft that they just deform like crazy, which is why driving is so hard. Hard to get them in without just destroying them. There's those 2 bushings installed. Grease passages are lining up. Alright, now we got to machine the top set of bushings and the sleeves that go in here next. Alright, I have got marks on these bushings where I want to part them off at. This is about maximum diameter for this particular chuck. We're out there quite a ways, but brass should cut easily. So, my intention is to drive this in here and then drill the grease hole through, and then I think I'm just going to hand die grind a bit of a grease groove in there, because there's just not a good way to do that. I normally do it by running my lathe, my big lathe, through there on rapid reverse, but I haven't. I've got the big lathe tied up with the project right now, so we're just going to go ahead and stick it in there and do a little hand grinding. Alright, we're going to try just clamping it to the mast here and see if that's good enough to... Picked up a little bit of a burr at the top, but not bad. Nothing a little flap wheeling won't fix. It's got some boogers of its own on it. Alright, let's do that again on the other side. Alright, this part is done. I just, like I say, took a ballpoint, ball-end carbide burr and just ran some grease grooves around there. I only bothered to put one all the way around and then across in there just to help it spread some grease around. But these are pretty sloppy, actually, the factory fit on these, so not actually that worried about grease getting around in there, because there's a pretty big gap the way the factory sets it up. So at any rate, this part is completely done. Bushings in, grease fittings in. I just have to take this chunk of bar stock now and machine up some new sleeves, and we're ready to kick this job out of the shop. Alright, well, let's chop ourselves off a chunk of bar stock here. This is where I really wish I had the Colchester going, because this is too big to go through the headstock of the Legend Shipley, so I'm having to cut off pieces to make the... This is 4140 pre-hard, by the way. Alright. On to the lathe. On the lathe, on the lathe. I never knew that's what they meant when they were shouting that in Spanish. Alright, let's head over there. The way 4140 pre-hard machines, this stuff, nice. Enough to make both pieces out of, plus the saw cut, plus facing. So now that I've flipped it around, machined each end, we're going to cut this thing in half. Take this back to the lathe and face them off now. Because we're a little bit on the snug side. I've got the pins made to exactly the dimension of the old ones, but these bushings, they're probably slightly tighter on the ID than the originals. I mean, I really don't know, because the originals are so destroyed you aren't pulling any dimensions off of them. These are just generic bushings based on dimensions. I didn't machine the ID or the OD of these. I was just cutting them off to length, so it's not shocking if there's a slight difference. And some of it is they definitely peen over on the end as you're driving them in there, so they're all a bit snugger, especially on the end they were getting driven in on. I'm going to put my hone in through the other bore, and the reason I'm doing this is my hone is worn for whatever reason. It's probably from some previous job. I can tell by the way it feels that it's a little bit fat on the bottom end. And I'm using that to my advantage. Like I was hitting it on the end where the, where it was coined out a bit from me driving it, and now I'm using it seeing as I know that this end of the bushing is a bit tight now. Watch my P's and Q's, it's easy to blow way oversized. Much different animal than honing on hardened steel bushings is. Yep, that did it. Nice. Well, everybody, that's it. That's a project finished. So just to recap, welded up, massive build up and re-weld on these bottom two bores. Weld up, bored those. These bushings on this end, I was able to just get stock generic bushings, the right length, diameter, IDOD, all that. This one, I could get them right IDOD, but too long. They were, I think, 3 1/4 inches long, which was an odd size that wasn't offered. So I got 4 inches and cut them down. And then made all of these pins out of 4140 pre-hard. So, at any rate, I'll... call the customer up, tell them they can come get her.